Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bogey Ball Society. Matt, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Spring is in the air. It's happening. Golf,
and
all the stuff.
Speaking of golf, we have a phenomenal guest for everybody. We've got Adam Young, author of the Practice Manual, co-host of The Sweet Spot, the well-renowned, well-known golf instructor. I want to tell everyone up front, we're going to split this one up into two parts, and you know,
yeah, for sure.
I would listen to this one and plan on listening to it again because, I mean, there's a lot of content here. If you know anything about Adam Young, you know how in-depth and analytical and thoughtful he is. I mean, there are a ton of gems in this podcast. It's awesome. So I hope everyone enjoys this. I know I got a lot out of just having the conversation with him.
Yeah, it really made us mostly just feel lucky that he said yes and that we got him, and then we couldn't stop talking. Like we were having such a great time that anyway. So we're gonna split it up into two. This is the first part. We'll let you listen and we'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy, everybody. I missed the countdown. That's my favorite part is the Wayne's World.
Do you want me to just pretend? Here, go.
No, I got it. We're good.
Okay.
And we're back. Matt, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. I'm mostly caught up on sleep. Mostly back to Pacific Coast time. Yeah. We had an adventure, and
I was telling our guests that 48 hours ago I was in sunny Orlando, and then I just spent the morning like digging out the driveway from over a foot of snow.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm in SoCal, so we don't have that issue. But it is, it is weird to wake up in one place, get on a plane, and go to bed in a different place. It still amazes me that, this is like 100 years of airline travel. This is not like anything new, but it still is incredible to me that you can get on a coast, like wake up on one coast and go to bed on another coast. That's crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of guests, Adam Young, sir, how did the storm treat Las Vegas?
We haven't had it, but it does get cold here. There's no frost or anything as far as I'm aware, but I think it got down to 35 last night. So
okay,
yeah, it gets
nippy.
I mean,
out here.
People forget that Las Vegas is a big old desert. So without that humidity, it gets really. I mean, it's the same thing I'm only a couple hours away. It gets nippy in the morning.
Yeah, it's like -2 right now here, so I really don't want to hear it. And I've given away the surprise. So welcome everybody to the Bogey Ball Society, and especially to our guest, Adam Young. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Actually, no, I feel a little under the weather. Who am I kidding? I'm all right. I'm like a 6 out of 10 right now. So if I'm not on my game, then I do apologize. But I should be all right. I should be okay.
All right. Okay.
Is part of that nerves? Have you been on a podcast before? Are you a little nervous?
Yes.
I am a super introvert. It's one of the reasons why I wrote a book. I'm so introverted. Like I get asked all the time to come and speak on stage or come and speak to this PGA, and I'm just like, I've got no interest in doing that. So, which is weird because when I'm doing a podcast, we're speaking to 150,000 people each time. So it's if you picture that's a whole 2 stadiums worth of people. But my brain doesn't work like that. I'm just staring at a screen in that regard. So.
Yeah, well, you don't have to worry about that with our podcast. It's definitely not quite 150,000. So,
I think it's like 149, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 49,000. Yeah.
Oh, no.
In a range. We're in a range of anywhere from 1 to 149,000. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, Adam, I think it's become standard fare in podcasts, right? Where we would kick it over to you and say, Adam, tell us about yourself. But if you listen to golf podcasts and you don't know who Adam Young is, and you're hearing this podcast, there's a problem.
It would be pretty impressive if there was somebody tuning into ours who didn't know who he was. That would be quite a feet.
And my point is, Adam, I think I can introduce you and then let you fill in the blanks here because and we talked about this. Big fan of yours as an author, as an instructor, as a podcaster. You are, from my vantage point, you are a golfer, a golf coach, an author of the practice manual, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail. You're a podcaster of the Sweet Spot podcast, a very successful podcast. But the one I wanted to start with and land on, and really I think how people have come to know you, by your own definition, you're a swing instruction heretic. Can you kind of expand on it? Because I've heard you use that label for yourself, but I'd like to
When
let
did
you
I say
expand on
that?
it.
Oh, it's
Oh, I know
such a
you've said
great,
it on a podcast in the past. I've heard
Maybe.
it.
such a
Yeah, I
great
mean,
I
line.
even stopped and
yeah.
rewound it. It's like, yeah, it's a great
I
line.
think when I first started debating, I remember I used to be on golf forums as, I think my handle was like Golf Coach Heretic or something like
Okay.
that. So
Hmm.
that might have been where I've said that. But yeah, I would say these things that I suppose were outlandish at the time, like not that the swing doesn't matter. I don't like being brandished as I'm a anti-swing mechanics coach. Like I will sit and I will talk for hours and hours about golf mechanics, but really it's looking at the smaller picture in a way, or more, granular data of what really matters in the golf swing. And I think way too many of us in the golf instruction industry in particular focus on a lot of things that are maybe less meaningful to a player's actual performance. So, what I've kind of boiled golf down to is the impact interval. So,
Okay.
there's all this swing that's going on. The club is moving around your body. And people like to put yourself on video and look at it, analyze it with all these AI apps. Now you can even analyze joint angles just with your mobile phone. And it's kind of fun to do that. But what really matters is when that club connects with the golf ball, and it's connected for, I don't know how long, but it's about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch of space. And the golf ball receives all its information in that space. And so I asked, well, what's important in that? And I boiled it down to, well, there are 7 things that happen in the impact interval that matter. But really 2 are vitally important for golfers. 2 things make the difference between your success and your failure in golf. And if you focus on those things and improve those, everything just gets better. And the good news is it doesn't require a swing overhaul to do that. So anybody can improve these things. If you can connect with a golf ball, so as long as you're not air shotting it all the time, if you can connect with a golf ball, which is probably 99% of the golfers listening,
Let's hope
Practice
so.
you
swing.
can get better at these 2 things, right? I mean, we all throw the occasional air shot in, I'm sure.
Yeah. So what are those 2 things? And I don't want to ask, people do still need to, get the book, of course, but if you want to give away a little bit of an insight, what are the 2 main things you're referring to then?
Yeah. Sorry, I know. It's a
Yeah.
big teaser, right? Yeah, just get the
In
book.
chapter 1.
Bye.
That's right.
No, so I suppose let's go through the 7 things then. So there's
Okay.
ground contact. Okay, so where your club contacts the ground.
Traditionally
That's
before
very
the ball,
highly correlated.
right?
Yeah, for most golfers, yeah. So, and I mean, obviously, with things like a putter or a driver, we don't want to contact the ground. But every other club where the ball's resting on the ground, we want to hit ball first and then turf. There are some caveats to that, but vertical strike on the face. So, which groove you hit correlates very, very strongly to ground contact. So you could say number 1 is ground contact or vertical contact. Number 2 would then be the horizontal contact, so whether you're hitting toe or heel. Number 3 would be face orientation, face direction, so whether the club face is pointing more left or right at impact. Number 4 would be path, so whether the club is moving more right or left through impact, or out to in or in to out, as people traditionally know it as. 5 would be speed, so the speed the club is moving at. And 6 and 7 are going to be attack angle and dynamic loft. So dynamic loft is just the loft at impact. So we can change that through certain things in the swing. So you might have a 60-degree wedge, but at impact you might present it at 50 degrees. So it's more what's happening at impact. And then attack angle is like the up or down component of path. So whether you're hitting level, up on the ball, or down into the golf ball. And if I was to boil it down to the 2 that are most important, it would be, and I've lumped 2 of those into one here, be face contact, or actually, yeah, you could call this face contact or ground contact. I'll explain that now. And face orientation. So I've
Okay.
lumped two into one here. So let me explain that. So face contact, you could just say on the X on the face. So how high or low or left or right. So that could be lumped into one thing, right? It's essentially you could break it into two. Are you missing more high or low on the face or more toe or heel? Or you could just say how close to that ideal spot are you hitting? Or, something I do with players is I'll put a spot on the ground. And I'll just say, make sure you hit this spot on the ground. So there's a drill I used to use with concrete and an old club, so you wouldn't worry about scratching the bottom. And I put a little dot in dry erase marker on the concrete, and I would just say, right, try and hit that spot. And if a player hits too far behind it, it's obviously a flat shot. Too far in front or not at all is a thin shot. And then too close to their feet, if you hit the ground too close to your feet, that is a toe shot. Too far away is heel shot. Just working on triangulating or like a shark getting closer to that spot, that's going to improve two variables out of the seven, and then all that's left is face orientation. I know that's a lot for people, but summary is ground contact, face orientation.
Yeah.
So I hear that, and I don't see how anyone could disagree with that, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's really disputing that. So I go back to what makes you a heretic? Is it how you teach accomplishing those seven variables?
Yeah,
Is it the
so
technique versus skill?
I think where the heretic comes in is less so now as it was 15 years ago. But 15 years ago, everybody used to teach models, or the vast majority of people would teach models, right? Everybody has to swing my way, and every instructor would have their own model that they would have, as
Stack and
their
tilt and all that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And, some more advanced teachers might have multiple different models. Like they say, oh, this model is good for this person, this model is good for that person. They maybe even be testing. I don't have a model. I mean, I understand models. So if you ask me what's a stack and tilt model, I'd have a good idea of it. What's the Leadbetter model? I'd have a great idea of that because I was an ex-Leadbetter instructor. So I understand these models and I can draw upon them as necessary. But how I teach golf differently, a couple of ways. Number one, I focus more on skill rather than technique, and I'm sure that will go off into a tangent in a moment. But number two, in terms of technique, like I say, I don't teach everybody the same swing, but I see swing movements as options. Okay, and an example of this would be, say someone is hitting too far behind the golf ball.
Mhm.
Well, the options to move the ground contact forward could be, we could shift their weight more. We could start with their weight more on their left side. We could get it more left side in the backswing. So this is kind of sound like stack and tilt here. Basically, a summary of that is get your weight more left at impact. We could swing more left. That moves the ground contact forwards as well. We could do a later release. That moves the ground contact forward. So early release would be casting. If people know what that is, later release would be a later version of casting. So those are options that move the low point forwards. We also could dig less deep into the ground. And there's a million options for that. One example could be, if someone drops down in the backswing, we could say stay taller in the backswing. And even then, everybody could look different. If someone, McIlroy, for example, and Tiger, they drop down quite a lot during the swing. Is it a problem? No, because they hit the ground in the right place. But if they're hitting it fat, say Tiger or Rory were coming to me saying, I just can't stop hitting it fat, then we say, okay, well, maybe let's limit this downward drop. Maybe just feel as if you stay taller. And even from then, Tiger feeling as if he stays taller might look very different to Kenny Perry feeling as if he stays taller. Kenny Perry was the player who used to go up in the backswing. Tiger goes down in the backswing. So all these different ways of doing it, really. And so out of all those options, I can draw upon any of them. And there's no right or wrong option necessarily. There might be some that are more logical. But ultimately, we can just say, well, let's play around with this. Let's explore. Let's see what you're comfortable with. Let's see what works for you. And we actually run some testing on these things. So everybody, a golfer would come into that system my system looking a certain way, and they would exit the system maybe looking slightly different, maybe not. But everybody exits the system improving their impact, but they would all look different, which is what you see on tour, right? All the pros look different on sometimes a large level. I mean, they all have commonalities as well. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but
Sure.
they all look different. I could teach a Furyk without changing his swing, without changing the things that make Furyk. And I
Sure.
could also teach a Tiger Woods without remodeling his swing as well. You're getting them better while they're still looking the same. I think the advantage of that is because when people move a certain way, usually it's for a reason, and that reason is not always known. I mean, the more we learn about the golf swing, the more we understand, that's why you move that way. When TPI first came out, what TPI, for people who don't know, is it's all about golf fitness and doing these screens to understand why people move a certain way. When they first came out, it made sense then. Oh, this player early extends because they can't not do it. Or this player does this because their body is built that way. And so the more we learn about the golf swing and the more that we learn about the body, the more we realize, oh, this player moves a certain way because that's actually kind of efficient for their body.
Yeah.
Again, we don't
Yeah.
throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not to say
Yeah.
never change a movement, but yeah, like I said, when someone moves a certain way, there's usually a good reason for it.
Cool. Yeah, this is just naivete, but is another option if somebody's delivering the ball heavy? Is it just a matter of moving the ball that like they have it too far forward? Because I know that there are times where I set up and I definitely have the ball too far forward, and I can feel it in the whole backswing. I'm trying to get back to the ball, and if I just move it half a ball back, it often solves some of that problem. And it probably doesn't solve the overarching problem of like, yeah, I really want to dig in behind the ball, but is just ball placement part of that as well, or that's like
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it's an option, right? If you move the
Yeah.
ball back, that puts the low point of the swing more forwards relative to the ball. And for some people, that can improve contact. Interestingly, it doesn't for everybody. It just,
interesting.
you put the ball
Yeah.
back, they just hit farther back. You put it back, they hit farther back. You keep
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
that
I could see that, right.
endlessly. And that can be part of what I teach, which is concept as well. So, yeah, if a player thinks that they should dig behind the golf ball, then it doesn't matter where you put it, they're gonna
gonna
dig
keep doing
behind it because their concept is faulty. So I always try and improve the concept before I even touch technique. I try and ask people, where do you think you should hit the ground? And then we go through a feedback process to see if what they're doing is matching reality. So with the concrete drill that I talked about, you'd used to make a swing with the club and it would chip the concrete. And the first couple of swings for people would be like 6 inches behind the golf ball. And so that's a feedback issue. They didn't understand that they were doing that before. So yes, they might know I should hit this spot, but they didn't realize, oh, I'm hitting 6 inches behind. And sometimes the feedback alone can be enough to create the change. If I leave a player with that drill for 5-10 minutes, they improve it by 50% without me telling them anything.
Wow.
Well, I guess kind of related to Matt's question, I guess what I struggle with understanding is, are the 7 laws that you've described, are they universal in importance to every golfer? And specifically what I'm getting at there, so kind of the opposite of what Matt described is I'm a picker, right? So, I mean, I can hit a wedge and not take a divot. And I mean, I'm not certainly a lot of room to improve, but I'm not the worst golfer in the world. I'm about a 6 or 7 handicap, and been going in the right direction. And I hear like anecdotal stories of, say, Tiger Woods, who would run through a range session and the grass wasn't disturbed. And TaylorMade even released that video where he told Scotty when he's playing well, no divots. So, but I thought I had to hit ball first, then turf, right? Do you understand kind of what I'm getting at there? Like, can you play functional golf as a picker? You know what I mean?
Completely. Yeah. I mean, some of that Tiger Woods anecdote, when you actually look at him playing on the course, he's taking these huge beaver pelts as well. So what a pro says and what they do are very different. There's also the question of, how skilled is a person? I hear this phrase, there are no solutions, just trade-offs. And, say, for example, if you look at Tiger Woods' iron, like you Google Tiger Woods iron rust mark, what you'll see is there's an iron that Tiger Woods hit so many times, there's a rust mark on the face, and it's very low on the face. It's like the second or third groove up the middle of the ball mark. And so if you have very, very good arc depth control, think about divot depth control. If you can pick it off the surface every single time, that is actually an optimal strategy because it gives you more distance control, better distance control.
You hear that, man? I'm an optimal golfer.
I could go into some of the physics with that. But then if you're a player who's quite variable at the face, Tiger Woods, he could hit 100 shots and he's going to hit within a groove each time. Yeah. So for him, hitting the third groove is great because if he goes one groove low and hits the second, it's still fine. One groove high and hits the fourth groove, it's a great shot as well. The distance control is good. But if your variance is 2 grooves, which isn't much, but it's double what Tiger's is, then the third groove for what Tiger went for is not optimal because you bring in more bladed shots with or super thin shots. So, I mean, this is really, really granular. I love talking about this stuff. But as a general rule for people, I say go for the third to fourth groove. Okay. Fourth groove is a good thing because that gives you, a couple of grooves below, a groove and a half below, a groove and a half above, as kind of these boundaries. Yeah. That's pretty good. And make sure you're balanced as well. You don't want your average to be on the 5th groove because if you do that, you're going to be a player who throws a lot of sod over the ball occasionally. And you don't want to be on the 2nd groove as well because you'll be able to hit some great shots. But you'll also throw a few bladed ones in there more often than you'd like. So try and balance those patterns.
I tend to pick it, but when I miss, it's when I start with the leading edge, never mind the grooves, right? So.
Yeah. And it depends how bad the miss is. Like if it's just bottom groove and it falls 15 yards short, it's not the end of the world either. Sure. So we all have a miss and you just have to make sure your miss is more optimal. I'm actually doing some really complex analysis using ChatGPT at the moment. I've marked out like every shot, hit thousands of shots and marked out every single groove and like what the distance drop off is on each groove. Cool. Then I've done strokes gained analyses and like I can tell them for a given player what their optimal groove is that they should go for. So when they're practicing, they hit shots, they have a look at the face and they say, oh, I hit the third groove. That's the groove I'm looking for. So really optimizing practice for people. It's overkill for most people, but it's the kind of in-depth stuff that I like to go into.
Yeah, I'd be happy with center of the face before I start counting which groove.
Yeah. So you talked about you have these seven sort of, must have these traits. But when you started coaching, were you mentioned Ledbetter, you were one of the coaches there, you were part of that system. I'm assuming, just like with everything, right? So you start with a mindset and then you keep noticing the same things over and over again, and that's how you're teaching morphs. Can you talk about a little bit like when you started as a teacher? How did you end up where you are now? Like, I'm super curious about that journey from, I'm going to teach a system versus, what actually how you get there matters less than what you're doing when you're there, like the impact position.
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite to most instructors in that I started out golf very analytical. And, when I started at 15 and I was super analytical as a kid, as a 15-year-old kid. So my way of learning golf was to get every book out of the library. So I got Ledbetter's books out, I got Faldo's book out, and I was learning models, and I got Tiger's book out, and he talks about all the swing positions. There's like these sequences of his swing and his changes. And I was in the mirror every night as a kid, like trying to copy Tiger's swing. And Tiger was dominating at the time. This was like 2000, 2001. So I was recording his swing, freeze framing it, drawing lines on the TV with dry erase marker pen, looking at planes and things like that. This was me on a Saturday night as 15 to 18-year-old.
But your parents love to come in and see the screen just drawn all over. What?
And the divots in the carpet as well. Yeah,
you never accidentally used a Sharpie instead of dry erase, did you? Because that would not have
No. Right. I was careful with that one. but yeah, that was my old way of swing analysis. So, even when I started instruction, I think 23 years old was my first kind of
Oh, wow.
foray
Okay.
into instruction, and I was teaching everybody a model. I was like, I loved it because I love swing by numbers. It's like, all right, I'm going to teach people. This is the takeaway. This is the grip. This is the setup. These are the exact positions you need to be in. And I'd video them. I loved it because it's very organized. And that's kind of ironically how my brain works. I sometimes sound disorganized, but I love organization and frameworks and things like that. So model
Yeah.
instruction really appealed to me. But what I quickly found was it didn't work. I could
Mm.
make someone swing look prettier and they would hit it worse. And I'm like, well, what the hell is the missing
Oh,
piece
wow.
here?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And then I learned actually in university, it was in a physics lecture about impact physics, and the lecturer wasn't a golf instructor at all. He wasn't even a golfer. He was just talking about, hey, this is what happens when the club meets the ball. These are the things that happen. This is gear effect. This is
Huh.
face orientation. This is like the path and the face. And well, even before TrackMan, we started to learn like how much the face influenced direction. And his point was that the swing didn't matter. What you do before that doesn't matter. This is everything. Like I wouldn't say doesn't matter. Doesn't matter is a strong word. It matters in effect in as much as how does it affect impact effectively.
Sure. But I can totally
But
see
really, you could.
if somebody spun the club above their head and then swung perfectly on plane and delivered the ball exactly, the club exactly where it needed to be, what they were doing beforehand technically doesn't matter. Only matters where they're getting the club back. I mean, I'm sure they're limiting themselves in other ways swinging like that, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go into, well, what makes something repeatable then? If I make a Zorro sign in my backswing, but like I said, come
Right.
back into impact effectively, uh, lots of people would say, oh, well, that's not repeatable. And you say, why? And
Right.
it's sort of like, oh, because the club's going off plane in the backswing. It's like, we could do a 10-hour podcast on repeatability.
Yeah.
But biologically, humans can repeat things that are very different to just what robotics would do, or if you were to
Yeah.
optimize based on if you were to build a robot. Human repeatability is kind of different in a way. And so, there are things like ingraining. If someone's swung a certain way their entire life, then that is going to be more repeatable than a robotic optimal. And in fact, trying to go to the robotic optimal, if there even is one, would throw out your repeatability because now you're doing something new. Anybody who's
Mm.
tried to change their swing knows this. It's like
Yeah.
changing a motion is very, very difficult. And then we have to ask, well, is it even necessary to play better golf? Can I make that Zorro sign in my backswing and play better? And yes, you can. If you get these two fundamentals that I talked about better, which everybody can, then you don't have to change your swing. And it's not even, I know lots of people think it's an either or. They think, well, if I don't change my swing, I'm never going to reach my potential. There may be an element of truth to that with certain things, but lots of what people deem a good swing is not necessary anyway. Like, here's an example. I know I'm kind of sounding crazy here, but here's an example of people understand. I got a friend who played off a 4 handicap. He's really good. He used to swing it inside, come over the top of his backswing and down,
Mhm.
basically down onto plane. And his through impact was great. Path was pretty square. He used to hit these good shots on target, strike it really well, hit it quite long. He played pretty good considering he had a full-time job and everything.
Yeah.
He bought into the aesthetics true idea of, oh, I need to perfect my backswing. I can't be taking it inside. So he spent the last year trying to swing it back on plane, and now he can't hit it at all. He just can't. He's lost all his distance. He's out to in. He's shanking it. He can't find the low point. His backswing looks better, but his old way of sequencing his body inside and then over the top, it was fine. I mean, you go back to like Bobby Jones. I think Sam Snead used to do it. You got John Daly.
Yeah.
Nancy Lopez, loads of players swing it inside. My podcast partner, John Sherman, he swings it inside and great player. I do the opposite. I swing it outside. Monty swung it outside. It's like there's so many ways of doing it. I think we focus too much on irrelevant things and then we end up, chasing aesthetics when it doesn't
Yeah.
even relate to function. So anything I change in a player's swing has a functional reason for doing so.
Cool. I had
So
a very quick moment. I was at the PGA show and we got to hit some of the clubs, and was in the Callaway booth, and I went to hit I couldn't
Matt
get the
wants
ball off
them
the air.
all.
Oh, it was awful. I couldn't get the ball up in the air, and they were using a half a tee. To be fair, the tees were broken, and what they had left, it was like the last day, was a half a tee, and so I had this thing sort of propped up and. I was trying to hit a low spin driver, which I don't need to hit. I should have been hitting like the highest spin driver they had. And I just kept hitting these terrible like ducky hooks. And finally we switched the heads and managed to get one up in the air. And there's a guy behind me who has just hit one for 311 yards, just randomly walked in, smashed one. And then and he said, "Can I give you a lesson?" And I was like, "Oh, please, like anything." He's like, "Yeah, you're taking it super far inside," which is something that I know I do. And I've been working on trying to get my backswing sort of much more neutral so that I can try to get it back from the inside because I have a tendency to come over the top. But the three things that he saw were the three things that I always do and I had reverted to in this moment. And he was like, "Yeah, you're falling backwards, trying to hit up on it. You're swinging from the inside." And I don't remember what the third one was, but he was spot on with one. He saw me swing like one time. And it made me so happy. Like, yeah, I'm fixable. Somebody saw it one time, and then he was like, "Yeah, oh, I was shifting. So instead of turning my hips, I was sliding a little bit this way, and not shifting, sliding." We did 3 little movements, and then I swung, and I hit probably the best drive I hit of the whole week on a small tee, like just absolutely pured it. And he laughed and said, "You owe me money," and then walked away. And like I didn't even get a chance to like say thank you. Really, he just like it was like a ghost, ooh. But it was a very encouraging moment for me because there are times where I get really, really discouraged about like, oh, I'm going to have to learn this new thing or that new thing. And a lot of the stuff that I've already learned and just haven't fully incorporated in, those are just old habits that I just sort of get into. They're fixable. So it's I'm an 8, like I'm fine. I have days where I'm really good and I have days where I'm really not, which I'm sure is 98% of the golf world. But it's encouraging to hear a coach say like, "Yeah, we do a little diagnosis and then we dive in." There's for me hearing you say that there isn't one right swing, because if there was, I would chase that really hard and probably end up more frustrated or playing worse because I was chasing an aesthetic as opposed to a delivery or a thought or whatever. So anyway, that's just it was one of those things that made me laugh because took him all of a minute and a half to have me hit a good shot, which part of me is like, oh, shame on me for not being able to do that the first time, but also I play once a week, like I'm not a pro. So it's really encouraging to hear somebody say like, "Yeah, we can dig in and dive in." That's why we do the analysis. That's why we do that first start, when you're starting with somebody. So, yeah, it's really
Yeah, and
exciting.
out of that, I would want to know what improved at impact. Because if we improve the outcome, or it's, you could look at this two ways. If you were having bad shots with that driver, I'd want to know what's happening at impact that's causing that. It sounds like with a driver, there's more emphasis on things like attack angle and dynamic loft, because if that ball's falling out of the air, for example, then you might want to go a club fit route or change
Yeah.
something in your swing to improve dynamic loft and attack angle. So trajectory becomes a little bit more important with a driver.
Yeah.
But it's still the same thing really with a driver. It's like how close you strike into the center of the face,
Right.
or or the optimal place on the face for you, and then what's the face angle doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then kind of optimizing those. So yeah, I mean, if I've got a player in front of me, the process for me in a lesson is I'll watch them hit 10, 20 shots. I'm asking them about their game as well. If they have strokes gained data, I'm looking at that. So I'm saying, okay, well, this player's good at putting, but their iron play sucks. Okay, well, let's have a look.
Sure.
And then I dig in and I say, oh, well, they're hitting a lot of shots short with their irons. So straight away, I know it's probably going to be a strike issue.
Hmm.
Or, and I may only know this by getting on the course with them, or it could be that they're striking it okay, but they're picking bad targets. You know, they're trying to bust a 9-iron there instead of
Got it.
hitting an 8-iron. I actually have an app coming out that is going to track those things. So after a bad shot, like say you miss a green, you'd open up the app and then you would tap on it. Was it fat or thin? Was it toe or heel?
Oh, great.
Or was it a good strike, but you maybe misjudged the wind or selected the wrong club? You know, if you hit it 5 yards short, for example, if you just hit it one groove low on the face and it lands short of the green, that's a strategy error, not a strike error. So this app will be able to track that. But yeah, so I'm looking at, what's costing this player shots. And like I said, for the most part, it's going to be a ground contact, face contact, or face direction issue. Those are the things that cost people shots on the golf course. Everything else is kind of optimization. The other seven, out of the seven, the other 4 variables are kind of optimization. So then once we find out, after 20 shots, I can see, well, this player, they say they're not accurate maybe, but actually directionally they're fine. Like you said, everybody hits left and right shots. Everybody has good, bad days, but like, is the average okay? And
Yeah.
lots of players are straighter than they think they are.
Sure.
They're just, their expectations are maybe out of whack. They'll hit a shot 10 yards right and go, oh, I left the face open. It's like, yeah, but that's a tour average miss. Like that's 30
Yeah.
feet off the target. That's a tour average 7-iron. So it's not necessarily a bad shot. So directionally, this player might be fine. Maybe even toe and heel. Maybe they're striking relatively centered, good average. But maybe their vertical strike is bad, which is indicating poor ground contact control. And so then that would make sense, right? If they're hitting everything short of the green, they got poor contact with ground contact. It's like, okay, well, this is what we have to improve, ground contact.
Right.
Then I look for a pattern in there. So, for example, I might look and say, well, hey, on average, you're a groove and a half too high. Let's see if we can lower that average.
Mhm.
And we may not even go into the swing yet. I may just say to someone, can you hit a few shots just trying to pick it off the surface? Just feel as if you don't disturb the grass.
Yeah.
Make a few practice swings where you're trying to nip the top of the grass and then take that feel in with the golf ball. Usually that's enough to lower it a groove on the face and improve their distance control. And that's the thing, that player could then go away and their swing could look identical on camera. Because what's a groove worth of change, right?
Right.
It's nothing on
Right.
camera.
Yeah.
But meaningful, it's very, very meaningful in terms of the outcome. It might reduce your short shots by 10%. So you're hitting 10% more greens. And out of the greens that you're hitting, the distance control is going to be better as well. So these things are super meaningful. And these are the things that the golf instruction industry hasn't focused on. They're always focused on the big things like how much your shoulders turned or, whether your takeaway was inside or not. Whereas I'm focusing more on grooves that they're hitting or whether the face was 1 or 2 degrees open and trying to improve the consistency and average of that.
Do you find that the stuff that you're working on is better suited for somebody who's coming, who's been golfing for a while, has had some lessons, or do you work with novices? Like, what do you find works better? Because I've definitely covered a bunch of broad strokes with other coaches before, and now that I'm in this sort of like single handicap territory where I'm really trying to now narrow it down and get better, and the big misses are gone, but there's still the little things. Is that where you find that like that's what you're excited about, or do you also get excited about like, oh my God, somebody's never picked up a club before, let's get this right now? Like,
Yeah, it's an interesting question. The things that I talk about are relevant to every single player. So if I've got a complete beginner who's never swung a club, or I've got Tiger Woods in front of me, it's about getting those 7 things or the 3 main things. It's about getting those good. I liken it to darts in a way, in that a beginner, I'm teaching my girlfriend darts at the moment, or we're playing against each other. She's actually quite good. She's improving too quickly.
that's trouble.
But at first it was just, can we hit the board? Okay, can we hit the board? But then she, you know, after a couple of sessions, she started getting that easily. And now it's okay, can we hit in the general quadrant? And then it's, can we hit the number that we're going for? And then obviously at the pro level, they're going for like the trebles and the doubles.
Yeah.
So like tiny little parts. Yeah. So it's the same goal. It's like, how can we close in on what we're trying to go for? You just get more refined as you go along. And so, you know, in terms of golf for a beginner, a complete beginner, it can be, can you hit this spot in space? So I might place a ball on a relatively tall tee for a beginner, and I would say, can you hit this imaginary spot where the center of the ball is? And your mistakes could be you're too high, too low, too close to you, or too far away from you, just like the concrete. And so even with a complete beginner, we're still doing that, and I'm giving them feedback. It's like they air shot it and they go over the top of it, and you say, okay, that you swung too high there. Can you swing the club a little lower for the next one? And then the next one, they'll make a swing and they hit the top of the club head. Maybe they even sky it. And you say, okay, you swung a little too low on that one. Can you swing a little higher? So you're just playing this game of calibration, I call it. Too high, too low, too left, too right. And you're zoning in like a shark on the ideal. And as you get better at that game, your shots get better. Now, obviously, a complete beginner may need some fundamentals in place. Like they might need a basic look at what a grip is, a basic idea of what a stance is. Lots of this can be done in seconds, though. It's like, hey, watch me swing for 10 shots. What do you see? I say, where's my ball in my stance? How are my hands? How am I standing to the ball? Can you copy it?
Yeah.
If you do that with players, they can pick up 10, 20 things very, very quickly. The same with a golf swing as well. You know, you can do kind of axe chop up at chest high and then just lower it, almost like going from baseball swing down to as if you're swinging on the angle of a rooftop.
Yeah.
So you can do lots of things like that very quickly in one session, and then you get back into the minutiae of impact again. And
Cool.
yeah, even with players, you know, with the left and the rights, I can ask them, okay, can you hit a few shots to the right? Can you hit a few shots to the left? This, by the way, is how Mickelson and Tiger Woods were taught as kids as well. Can you hit a shot left? Can you hit a shot right? And then can you find in between? And if a player can't do that, you can start with putting, even at the very basic level. Can you hit a shot, you know, with an open face, a little bit closed face? Can you go in between? People are very, very good. People's instincts are amazing. We're playing a very difficult game, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't tap into our instincts.
Cool.
All right, everybody, we told you we're going to have to chop it up into 2 parts. So that was part 1. Part 2 is going to be brought to you next week. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.